The story begins in a house where the walls remembered more than the people inside them did. A house where footsteps were soft, voices were tired, and love, real love, looked like a woman quietly carrying the weight of two adults and one child on her back. I grew up believing that families were built on routines. Breakfast made before the sun rose. Dinners simmering even when my mother's eyes were heavy from work. Clothes that always smelled warm, safe, and clean. My mother made all of this happen like she was performing a magic trick no one should ever applaud, because no one ever did. And then there was my father. My earliest memories of him were bright, too bright, like a camera flash that blinds you before you understand what you're seeing. He was the fun parent, the one who bought McDonald's when mom said no, the one who took me to sports games and shouted louder than anyone else. But fun is hollow when it's the only thing someone brings to the table. Fun doesn't fold laundry. Fun doesn't stay up at night with a sick child. Fun doesn't carry the invisible labor of a family. I didn't understand that back then. Back then, I thought the world was split into two types of parents, the fun one and the one who forced you to clean your room. But I would learn, sooner than I should have. I was 12 the day I broke something more than a rule. My mother asked me, begged me, really, to pick up after myself. A few toys, a few clothes, nothing dramatic. I snapped at her. I don't remember the exact words, only the sharpness in my voice, the way I threw my anger at her like it didn't matter who she was, like she wasn't already drowning. She walked away quietly, too quietly, and then I heard it. A door closing, a stifled sob behind the bathroom tiles. It was the first time I realized my mother wasn't a machine. She wasn't an infinite resource. She was a woman breaking into pieces so softly that no one, not even herself, noticed it happening. That night, something in me changed. A shift, a click, a childhood ending before I knew it was leaving. I looked around the house and saw everything she carried. The dishes, the laundry, the meals, my life. And my father? He sat on the couch, the glow of the TV painting shadows across his face, beer in hand, completely untouched by the storm he had helped create. Fun, I realized that day, was a mask he wore to avoid responsibility, a mask I would begin to resent. From 12 to 14, I grew older in ways my father never did. I helped mom with groceries. We folded laundry together while talking about school. We cooked side by side, our movements becoming a small ritual of survival. We were a team, an exhausted, uneven team, but a team nonetheless. My father remained a guest in the house he claimed to own. He'd grit his teeth when asked to help. He'd accidentally break things while cleaning so he'd never be asked again. He'd drag his feet through every chore, a man-child masquerading as a husband. The day I confronted him was the day the illusion of fatherhood shattered. "You never help out around here." 14-year-old me said it quietly at first, then louder when he ignored me. He snapped. His voice boomed across the room. I flinched, not because I feared him, but because I suddenly saw him clearly. A man offended by the truth. A man allergic to responsibility. Mom comforted me later, like she always did, whispering, "Let him be. You and we've always handled things alone." It wasn't meant to break my heart, but it did, because she was right. We already lived like he didn't exist. When I was 15, the truth arrived like a winter storm, silent at first, then devastating. My mother found out he had been cheating. 1 year of betrayal. 1 year of lies. 1 year of laughing in our faces while building a new life behind our backs. The fight that followed wasn't a fight, really. It was an ending. My father left that night, slamming the door behind him like a coward running from the consequences of his own choices. He moved in with his mistress, a woman named Hannah, and her daughter, a ready-made replacement family. The next days blurred together. I remember my mother's hands shaking while she tried to cook. I remember her sobbing into the sink because she didn't know how to cry in front of me. I remember holding her while she whispered apologies she didn't know anyone. And I remember hating my father in a way I didn't know children could hate their parents. The divorce finished months later. My mother didn't recover. Not at first. She broke. And I became her caretaker, feeding her, guiding her to the shower, holding her through panic attacks, doing homework between shifts at a part-time job because someone had to keep the lights on. I was 16 and carrying the emotional weight of a grown man. Because the actual grown man, the father, had chosen to disappear. Cheating doesn't just break marriages. It breaks children. It breaks trust. It fractures the foundation that childhood is built upon. And the worst part? He acted like we had betrayed him when I refused to play along with his new fantasy family. A few months after the divorce, he started demanding 50-50 custody. Not asking, demanding. As if time with him was a privilege I was supposed to fight for. As if the house he abandoned suddenly held emotional value. I told him to screw off. My mom, ever the peacemaker, gently suggested I shouldn't cut him out entirely. So I visited, Reluctantly, every other weekend. Hannah tried to play the role of stepmother, smiling sweetly before slipping into a tone that made my skin crawl. A woman who wanted control, not connection. Her daughter tried to bond with me. I ignored her, not out of cruelty, but because I refused to be part of the lie my father was building. Within a year, Hannah got pregnant. A new baby, a new start, a new distraction for him to hide behind instead of facing who he really was. He tried to sell me the story. You're a big brother now. No, I wasn't. I hadn't even had a father to begin with. Those children weren't siblings. They were props in his reinvention. By 18, my visits became rare. Quick drop-ins, short conversations, enough presence to avoid drama, but not enough to give him hope. And yet, Hannah kept pushing. Her tone sharpened. Her words dripped guilt. They miss you. You're their big brother. Why are you so selfish? Selfish. That word echoed in my skull like a taunt. The day everything exploded began like any other visit. Stiff greetings. Tension humming through the house like static electricity waiting for a spark. Hannah began lecturing me. Not even 5 minutes in. I stood up to leave. That's when my father stepped in front of me, blocking the doorway. Hands up. Voice low but commanding. You need to grow up. Let the past go. We're still family. Family. A word I no longer recognized. And then, something inside me snapped. The truth I had held in my chest for years erupted with the force of everything I had survived. My father's face was inches from mine, his breath hot with frustration, his voice wavering with that familiar fake authority he used whenever he felt cornered. He said, "You can't keep being angry forever. I'm your father." That word, father, felt like a lie burning in the air between us. I stared at him, and for the first time in my life, I didn't see a parent. Not even a man. Just a stranger wearing the costume of someone who once mattered. And then the explosion came. My voice wasn't just anger, it was grief sharpened into a blade. You were never a father. The room went silent. Even Hannah froze. The air tasted metallic, like the tension before a storm breaks. I didn't stop. You were a lazy, entitled parasite who sat on the couch while mom carried the whole family alone. You were a grown man acting like a fourth child in your own house. He opened his mouth to argue. I didn't give him the chance. All you ever did was complain. She made your meals, washed your clothes, cleaned every corner while you sprawled out like a king who did nothing. His eyes widened, not with guilt, but with the shock of being seen. You bought me ice cream sometimes. Great. A father isn't someone who throws money at fun moments. A father shows up. A father helps. A father cares. My voice cracked, not from weakness, but from the weight of everything I had held for years. You weren't there when I was sick. You didn't help with school. You didn't talk to me about anything real. You didn't know me. I took a step forward. He stepped back. You cheated on mom after using her up. After draining her until she had nothing left. You broke her. You broke her. My hands shook as I spoke. Do you know what it's like to be 16 and help your mother into the shower because she can't stand on her own? To hold her while she cries herself to sleep because you destroyed her life? He swallowed hard. I pressed on. You didn't just cheat. You abandoned us. You left me to pick up the pieces of a woman you shattered. A child became the emotional support you were supposed to be. Hannah suddenly snapped defensively. That's not fair. I turned to her like a blade turning toward a new target. You're nothing to me. You slept with a married man. You helped destroy our family, and now you're shocked that I don't want to play pretend with yours. Her face flushed red. I'm not your family. Your kids are not my siblings. Stop filling their heads with lies. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. I turned back to my father, voice quiet but deadly. You died to me years ago, and the man who died wasn't even good. A tremor went through him, fear or realization or both. I pushed past him. He didn't try to stop me again. The walk home felt unreal. My hand still shook. My heartbeat pounded in my neck. The world looked warped, too bright in some places, too dark in others, as if the confrontation had cracked something inside me. When I reached home, my mother opened the door with her gentle eyes, sensing something was wrong before I even spoke. I broke, collapsed into her arms like the child I hadn't allowed myself to be for years. She stroked my back and whispered, "I'm sorry you had to carry so much. I'm so sorry." But she wasn't the one who should have apologized. I told her everything. Every word I screamed. Every truth I forced into the open. She didn't blame me, but she did sigh softly and say, "I just wish you didn't have to hurt yourself to say it." She wasn't talking about the yelling. She was talking about the years I had bottled everything up. But there was relief too. Like we were both finally breathing after holding our breath for half a decade. For the first time, I felt the weight begin to loosen. Screaming the truth wasn't pretty, but it was necessary. For a few days, the world was silent. Then the messages started. Not from my father, not at first, but from Hannah. Paragraphs. Walls of text. accusations dripping with performative grief. You're heartless. You ruined him. He hasn't stopped crying. You should be ashamed. He only wanted a relationship with you. I blocked the number. Then her family started messaging me. People I had met once. People I had never spoken to at all. It was just a mistake. You owe him forgiveness. You're cruel to treat your father like that. He's depressed because of you. The guilt hit like cold water. Not because I believed them, but because the voices multiplied, echoing, overlapping, pressing in like the walls were closing around me. That's how emotional manipulation works. Not through truth, but through volume. My father's silence was louder than their words. After drowning in their noise, I sat down and did something I had never done. I wrote a long message. Not angry, not screaming, just the truth carved out with surgical precision. I wrote about the imbalance in our home, his entitlement, the years Mom carried everything, the resentment that grew as I watched her break, how I became the adult he refused to be, how he never showed up emotionally, how he chose cheating over responsibility, how he abandoned me during my most crucial years. I wrote about how disrespect is not a single moment, it's a pattern, a history, a legacy of neglect. And at the end, I said, this is not forgiveness. This is me setting boundaries. If you guilt me again, I'm gone. When I hit send, I didn't feel powerful. I felt empty. Like digging up graves never leaves you clean. His reply came hours later. 2 words. I understand. It wasn't an apology, but it was the quietest admission of guilt he had ever made. The text stopped after that. The noise faded. And for the first time in years, I felt something close to freedom. Looking back, it's easy to believe this story is about anger. But it isn't. It's about grief. You cannot mourn a person who was good to you. You mourn the person you needed but never got. My father wasn't absent. He was present in all the wrong ways. He taught me how loneliness feels even when someone sits in the same room, how emotional labor destroys a person, how resentment grows silently, like mold on the foundation of a home, how children become adults too early when parents refuse to grow up. My anger wasn't the beginning. It was the symptom. The real disease was neglect disguised as normal life. The cheating didn't surprise me. It merely revealed who he always was. A man uncomfortable with responsibility, seeking escape, and a woman even more willing to enable his laziness. Children of broken homes often become emotional parents to their actual parents. That was me. I didn't resent him for cheating on my mother. I resented him for cheating on his role as a father. And that betrayal stays with you long after the affair ends. In the days that followed his message, something inside me settled. Not healed, but settled. I wasn't ready to forgive. I'm still not. But I also wasn't carrying the same weight I once did. By speaking the truth, I finally stepped out of the shadow of the child who kept waiting for his father to show up. I stopped waiting. And that is its own kind of liberation. In my opinion, this story isn't just about a son yelling at his father. It's about the deeper tragedy woven through countless families. The burden of emotional parentification. A child forced to become the responsible one. A child who witnesses the collapse of their mother while the father rewrites history with a new partner. A child who grows up too fast because the adults never learned how. What the father wanted wasn't reconciliation. He wanted amnesia. He wanted everyone to pretend his failures were small, forgettable things. But children in these situations don't forget. They collect every moment, every ignored responsibility, every manipulated excuse, every silent abandonment, and those moments harden into identity. This son isn't cruel. He's wounded. And sometimes, the most painful truth is realizing that the parent we needed never existed. The new family, the guilt messages, the pressure to play big brother, that was all noise. The real story is a boy who raised himself while trying to keep his mother alive. In the aftermath of someone else's choices, the confrontation didn't break the father. It revealed him. And for the first time, the son walked away, not as a child seeking approval, but as a young man demanding dignity. And that is why his words were necessary. Not with forgiveness, not with reconciliation, but with honesty, sharp, painful, and long overdue. Sometimes the deepest wounds aren't caused by strangers, but by the people who were supposed to protect us. A father who never learned how to be one, a son who grew up too early, and a truth that finally broke the silence of an entire childhood. If this story resonated with you, you're not alone. There are millions of people carrying the weight of parents who never carried theirs. If you've ever had to choose your own peace over someone else's denial, then you already understand this story better than anyone. Thank you for watching Reddit Xclusive, where we dive into the darkest corners of the human experience and bring the unseen stories to light. If you'd like more cinematic narrations like this one, make sure to subscribe, leave a comment about what hit you the hardest, and share this video with someone who needs to know. They're not the only one carrying old scars. Until next time, Stay safe, stay aware, and remember, sometimes the truth sets you free, but only after it breaks you.